Okay, I think we're just about ready to start. So again, good morning to everybody. If you've just joined, I think everybody is muted just because we don't want anybody to bomb the meeting or anything of that sort. So if you'd like to say something, please feel free to use the chat facility, or you can clap, or you can wave using your reactions. But thank you so much. I know it's super, super cold in Joburg. Pussy from East London was telling me that it's the same in the Eastern Cape. And I think from wherever you're joining, you must be freezing. That's why I put on a hat this morning, but I'm sort of realizing that I look a little like Waldo right now. Um, but thank you so much for joining. And I hope that this will be a useful and valuable session for all of us. I'm really excited to get to know some of the ingenious and very unique techniques that people are using as alternatives to our food systems. And so I think that we're going to jump right in. I'll introduce the speakers very briefly. And we have Dora Marema, who is our respondent for today. I think how we're going to keep it is we'll start with Busi Peter, who's an agroecology farmer from East London, who will kick off our program for us. And then Kate Rowe, who's the owner of Explorer, based in Johannesburg, will be next. And then Erika Inches from Cape Town Together Food Growers Group will end off the speaker part of the program for us. We'll then have Dora, who will be the respondent. So I think with the speakers, just to note, we would like you guys to speak for just around 7 minutes, if that's possible, to keep it to 7 to 8 minutes. Dora, you'll have about 15 minutes, and then we'll open it at the end for any question and answer. But if you have a burning question or something that you'd really like to say to the speaker, or to encourage them, or to thank them for their presentation, please do feel free to use the chat facility. Yeah, and we really are excited. I just want to change this to speaker view for the purposes of the recording. But thank you so much again for joining, everybody. Super excited to be part of this, and I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to hand over to Busi Peter, and thank you so much.
Good morning.
Sorry, Busi, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. I've unmuted you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Busisiwe Mkangela Peter. Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Busisiwe Mkangela Peter, an agroecology farmer from the Eastern Cape. I am a member of the Imvoto Bubomi Learning Network, IBLN, that deals with rainwater harvesting and conservation, amanzi for food and livestock production. I am a member of Iqonga Lothungelwano Loluntu Lwase Eastern Cape, a platform that shares and teaches information on coronavirus in the Eastern Cape. Each one teaches one. I have recently been appointed as an executive director of the Movement in Africa, an NPO in South Africa that is co-creating an impactful community-led learning support and giving systems using permaculture farming practices, entrepreneurial and wellness teachings. I was a nurse educator who decided to leave nursing education to venture into farming, to care for the soil so that it cares for the plants that will care for the people, in combating illnesses that are caused by food issues. So that would be a first line management in healthcare, which is prevention, which is better than cure. COVID-19 pandemic has greatly shown how real poverty is and inequalities in the communities in the Eastern Cape, more especially from the rural areas in the Eastern Cape, in the townships and in the informal settlements. This has greatly been shown by the poverty, the pandemic of COVID-19. and gender-based violence has raised during this pandemic. The truth is so great that time is now that a need for access to nutrition-dense food and clean water is mandatory for access to nutrition and access to clean water for every citizen of our country and beyond. To answer the question, how can we build back better to have sustainable food for the nation? I would say, let us co-create impactful community-led learning and support systems by using sustainable ways of healthy food production, using agroecology practices and permaculture designs to promote well-being, to restore the environment, and to restore our water resources by using rainwater harvesting and conservation techniques. Let's build learning hubs in villages and communities that act as centers of learning on how to produce food using sustainable methods, producing micro-gardens that will result in food sovereignty, which deals with nutrition-dense food, with the choice of food and control over means of food production. This will create a healthy and sustainable natural environment that puts those who produce, who distribute and consume food at the center or at the heart of food production system. The teaching and learning and sharing will be about building the soil and regenerating the environment. As healthy soils produce healthy plants that give rise to healthy consumers or healthy personnel or people and a healthy nation. Saving seed and creating seed banks for families and communities to rescue and restore our indigenous seeds and culture for propagation of quality seedlings from start. Taking care of water resources, a scarce commodity in our Eastern Cape, by harvesting and conserving rainwater and rehabilitating rivers, by cleaning and recycling. And this would be also an opportunity for employment for our unemployed youth. Taking care of the elderly, the youth, the vulnerable, children and women, bringing back Ubuntu by restoring dignity and also self-worth to all citizens of our country. Thus building confidence to youth, enabling them to be assertive and to be leaders in their communities. Giving support to the point where agricultural related micro-business generating income and pride are established. Let us bring back sustainable agriculture in the curriculums, in the institutions of learning. In summary, let us build back better so that we are able to combat hunger. Let's bring solutions to combat hunger, to promote well-being, to restore life and dignity. Let us transform rural communities, townships, informal settlements, and urban communities into self-reliant and healthy and sustainable ones, to have hope, to believe in self, and feel empowered to become entrepreneurs in income-generating micro-businesses who are vibrant and also are taking care of our environment. Let us inspire our future. Each one teaches one. Omnye afundise omnye. It can be done. We also strongly condemn violence to women and children, as women are the traditional producers of food, of healthy food. The movement in Africa has the solution. And if you check the website and Facebook, it will be the Movement in Africa. And Imvoto Bubomi Learning Network, for Amanzi for Food, the website, and the Facebook. Those are the two organizations that I'm working for or are involved in. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Busi. I think just to comment on what you said about the concept of each one, teach one, just listening to you has been extremely valuable and insightful. I think the things that you spoke about with having healthy soil that produces healthy plants and produces healthy people is of extreme interest to me, a sort of outsider who doesn't know too much about agroecology or farming, and just thinking about the difference that soil makes to growing good food. And I think possibly in the question and answer session, if you'd be able to expand a little bit more for me on that part, just about how soil influences the type of crop that's produced, and I can imagine the obvious link between it. But if you could expand a little more, I think that would be extremely insightful. Thank you for talking about control over the means of food production. And I thought it was very interesting talking about women as traditional producers of food, which is the way that it has been, and of healthy food. And I think sometimes moving away from traditional practices takes us to modern ways of doing things that are sometimes more efficient, but not always sustainable and not always as wholesome. So thank you for these reminders, and thank you so much for that contribution. I'll ask if anybody has any questions for Busi to please post it in the chat, and I'll take note of it, Busi, so we can get back to it at the end. Otherwise, at the end, we'll talk again to Busi about agroecology. Can I also ask, Busi, that you please write down the Facebook names for the movement in Africa and the other organizations that you mentioned? If you can just pop it in the chat so that everybody can visit those pages as well. Thank you so much. So I'm going to now ask Kate, who's going to present to us next. Kate is based in Joburg, and I think has been working with the Inner City Can on a very interesting project that involves worms. So I won't say more than that, but I'm going to hand over to Kate now. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. So I see my lighting's not particularly good this morning. Apologies about that. I'm going to be brief. I don't have a fancy presentation. I was attempting it last night, and I realized everything is so interrelated. So I'm going to do my best to explain what we're doing, and hopefully, yeah, anybody who any questions can ask them at the end. So the idea is that we want to create micro industries within the inner city, which then support people to start their own businesses. But it's bigger than that, because we look at all the sort of elements that have value in the inner city. So children, communities, businesses that are already established, and how we can all work together. So the project I'm talking about today is worm farming, and this was initiated by Nick Barnes, who at the moment is the CEO of Josie Housing. And we are setting up worm farms in the basements of big residential buildings in the inner city. And what this entails is that kids get involved. They are tasked with being part of the community project, and they go into the buildings that they live in, and they source the food and the materials from people living in the buildings for the worms. So they're involved, and there's an education element with the kids around entrepreneurship, which is kind of the exchange for their time. And then the worms get all the good stuff from the buildings, and then ultimately what will happen with the worm farms is that they will start producing vermicast and compost, which then can be sold. Okay? And so there's a little micro industry. But not only would we be able to sell the vermicast, we can then start growing mushrooms, because vermicast, which is from the worms, is exceptional substrate to grow mushrooms, and of course in the dark in the basements is perfect for growing mushrooms. So then another micro industry starts to happen around that. Then tagged into that is we've started a gardening club. right? So now you've got a group of kids who at the moment are not in school. They really are at a bit of a loose end. They're now coming together, digging, planting, learning about the soil, learning about food growing. And then the waste from that garden goes to the worms. And the kids then are able, when their vegetables are grown, are then able to sell very small amounts back into the business. Again, the garden club is then tagged with an entrepreneurial program. Can you see why I wasn't able to quite make a beautiful image of this? It's all very interrelated. The idea is that every part of what we do builds towards the whole. Every part, so whether it's the children's food garden, whether it's the worm farm and micro industry, whether it's then the mushrooms being able to grow, all of that, it builds towards communities that are more connected. It builds towards well-being, togetherness, and so that even, and then if you take the businesses that are established, for example, like Josie Housing, they have a big footprint of residential buildings in the inner city. They're coming on board by providing all sorts of things, the basement space, the gardens, the seeds. So the idea is that we start to create almost like a circular movement of support, rather than I earn money, I buy something, and it feels very linear. So this way we kind of see that we're growing something, it's helping here, it's supporting this gogo in the building, and through that movement then create the sense of togetherness. Sorry, I'm not, okay, I think that's probably me up time-wise for my 7 minutes. It's very new, this project. I personally believe it is the way forward in the inner city, which has very unique dynamics. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how it grows and where it goes. Okay, I'm done. I wasn't tracking the time. I got so carried away. Sorry.
I think you were completely in time. Just to let you know, people in the comments are really amazed, as am I. I was taking down notes and also just listening. What a completely ingenious idea, and I think really speaks to this concept of using what resources do exist. So instead of reinventing the wheel, like you were saying, there are big businesses who have connection within these buildings and making use of that already established organization to do what you want to do. Similarly, there are big buildings, obviously with basements that are dark. There are kids who aren't in schools. There are people who can do the work, and that is absolutely amazing that we make use of resources that aren't necessarily monetary. I think Mark Hayward was speaking to us. He spoke in our Gauteng Together Cancun learning session, and I think he mentioned it last week as well, about being aware of what power and resources lie within the community in which you're working. And I think that acknowledgement of what the inner city has to offer already, without anybody coming in and dumping loads of money onto the inner city, is an excellent use of this concept of using what is already there and then creating, like you said, these interrelated communities that go such a long way in democracy building as well, and in a social compact and even that sort of thing. And then obviously just providing opportunities for people for food, for employment, for sustainable growth. So thank you so much for that. I think, Kate, just 2 questions that aren't really questions, but when we come back to the question and answer, if you could just, if you do have any pictures of the worm farms that you guys have done in the basements, I think that would be really lovely to share and everybody would be interested. And then I think a second one is just, I know you said it's new. So when have you launched already? Are you planning to launch at a specific time? And then I think if people in different provinces want to start something like this, can they get in touch with you? So those are a few questions I'll leave, and then at the end we'll obviously have some more questions as well. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so our last speaker is from Cape Town Together, from the Food Growers Group there. And I think her name is, no, I don't think her name is Erika. Her name is Erika. I think she has a presentation to share with us. So I'm going to hand over to you, Erika, and thank you so much.
Good chilly morning to you from Cape Town. I hope you can hear me.
We can.
Great, thank you. I'm a COVID baby and BC before COVID, a permaculturist, life coach, and financial management consultant specializing in business intelligence and systems design. But that is all irrelevant because we've all been sent to our bedrooms by Mother Nature to think about what we've done. And we've had our time to think things through, all the way to root cause, not plasters. And it's time to do now and build this aeroplane while we're flying it. We've all got a responsibility of what we put in our mouths and our minds, and a responsibility for where and how we source our food. Most people have realized now how much opportunity there is to grow in an urban context, and the amazing inventions and solutions that exist that can be done on a zero budget. There's walls and roofs and rubbish. Even kitchen scraps can be used and regrown and repurposed. Growing your own food is the first step to self-emancipation. Technology has allowed us to connect and share in a way that's never been before. And this pause has taught us all to listen and observe. This is the successful hammock approach to food growing. It's really important to observe your space first. The next important piece to building it back better is to continue building resilient communities. And we showed that we can the last 5 months. There's no excuse anymore. This means collaboration and sharing, starting at home with our own communities. And we need to design and create regenerative systems. Sustainability is not enough. We need to help nature. Work with Mama here. Regeneration is where the system gets more abundant over time, like food forests, circular economy, and community collaboration. In other words, local physical things distancing and global social information sharing. It's time to design systems that leverage nature's millions of years of research and development to restore the natural systems. Or more viruses will come and sort out those that refuse to listen. In urban food growing, though, expectations must be realistic. Everybody cannot grow everything. Land must be more wisely used. From urban spaces to your private balcony, to your roof or wall or dumping ground, can all be utilized. Definitely fresh herbs and greens and beans can be grown as a minimum with a maximum nutritional impact right now. A worm bin in every kitchen and a composting center on every block. There's many nooks and crannies of invention. And there's many people that are ready to trade and barter, and the tech already exists to enable this. Every situation is different. The neighborhood collaboration and sharing is necessary for food growing. And to keep it going, the system needs to be resilient. Public land, curbs, verges, dumping sites, empty plots, alien-infested sites. They can all be transformed to grow what works in that situation. Every ornamental garden can be interplanted with food plants. Backyard food gardens, wisely used and connected into blocks and corridors, can create resilience and abundance. Grow your own money, supply yourself. It's time to build communities, to grow food. It's important to get everyone's input and make them part of the solution. Autonomy and agility is key. We actually all own part of the system because we are the system. Let's influence ourselves. We all have a part to play, and there's plenty of space for everyone together. It can work if we continue to build on the relationships formed over the last 5 months. Join up with your local growers can. Join the Facebook group. For TTT Food Growers Initiative exists. The group agreements are interesting. We have a vision of having a food forest out of Cape Town, community gardens and urban agriculture in every space. We're focusing on supporting and helping to establish the new gardens, and encouraging and supporting household and guerrilla food gardens. The intention is to exchange knowledge and share skills and share resources so that together we can grow whatever we can, where we are with what we have, starting now. The group started just as a WhatsApp group. And the main group is constantly full at the moment and always evolving. No rules means there's no gatekeepers, and it's a kind and happy and safe space where everybody's voice is heard. Kind of more invasive than the virus. We've had a lot of breakout groups formed over the last couple of months. The media and film group, the co-learning group. We've got a seedling nursery training group, a land and water task team for lobbying with government, an inventors corner, an alternative economies groups, one for Zlatos, which is a community volunteer system, and one for the community exchange network, which is currently being used by our seed bank. A couple of last words. Get together at a safe distance with your neighbors and plant whatever food works in your garden and share. Don't waste the spring. Don't waste a scrap. Even politicians can do composting. And join us to create a food forest out of Cape Town and be part of turning an African begging bowl into an African emancipation legend. Keep joining the dots at the speed of trust. That's me done.
Great, Ilka, thank you so much. I think some important points there. One, just about the resilience of communities, and exactly what Haila is saying in the chat. Community is more invasive than the virus, and the need to collaborate at this time. I think an important emphasis on what the virus or the pandemic has presented to us in terms of opportunity for growth, opportunity for learning, and an opportunity for building back better, which is what this discussion is about. I think on that note, just a reminder, there is a Mentimeter that everybody can please drop their comments on about what building better looks like, especially with regard to food solutions and alternative food systems. I'm going to ask Nadia to just share the link again to that Mentimeter in the chat. And please do post whatever thoughts are coming to you. And I think that's the beauty of the Mentimeter, that it doesn't have to be this well-constructed, cohesive sort of sentence that you put together. It can just be your thoughts as they're flowing, or a single word that's sparking your interest. Please do share that with us so that we can collate it. I'm going to hand over to Ms. Dora Morema. I think it's Marema, actually. Dora Marema, who has a very jam-packed CV, which I'm not going to go through, but just to say, Dora has spent 20 years in sustainable solutions and within the sustainability sector, working on various things from agriculture to renewable energy, to land rights and land reform. She's currently the Executive Director of Gender CC Southern Africa, Women for Climate Justice, which I'm very interested to hear more about. But I think that anything else she wants to say, I'll hand over to you, Dora. Please introduce yourself further if you'd like to, and we're really keen to hear your inputs and your response to the presentations. So thank you for being with us. And yeah, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm really humbled. It's been such an amazing morning this morning. It was hard waking up, very freezing here in Johannesburg, but I'm so grateful that I'm part of this meeting this morning. Amazing presentations. As I've been introduced, my name is Dora Marema. I wear a couple of hats. One being the director, and in fact, I must just say the outgoing, because I end my journey with Gender CC at the end of the month. Gender CC started in 2009, and I've got my colleague and friend Taryn here, who was one of the people that started together with us and working on issues of gender and climate change in Southern Africa, but also in the continent and globally. And I also wear a hat of one of the co-founders of the Green Business College, which is a social enterprise based in the inner city of Johannesburg at Victoria Yards, which aims at bringing in green skills together with basic entrepreneurial training for people to start things like gardening, food processing, vermicasts, mushroom farming, making hot bags and things like that, even jewelry out of old newspapers and things like that. Also, I am part of the C19 Gauteng Food Working Group. Yes, and as a result, I've been also part of an initiative called the Ubuntu Project, which was also started during the beginning of the lockdown here in South Africa, and has been working in Johannesburg, largely connecting smallholder farmers to communities that needed food at the time. Yes, so I hope I've done a bit of justice in terms of just giving the people background in terms of who I am. I'm just so inspired by these initiatives that have been presented this morning. I was asked to respond, and I think it's, for me, it's such a very challenging task to respond, because I just love each and every one of them, starting with Sisbusi this morning, and I know Sisbusi from Sawoso, an amazing work with BLM and movement in Africa. And I think you touched some important core in terms of, working with communities for, to create sustainable communities where learning can happen, where basic, and enterprises or enterprising can happen as well, where people can know the value of the soil, and how to be able to utilize it to produce nutritious food that is needed during this time. And I think you touched on all the aspects that I believe are very critical. And I think it's so inspiring to hear about these initiatives. And I think the second one was Kate. So amazing, so proud of this initiative. I'm a firm believer in what the inner city can be able to offer. I have worked with an organization called Greenhouse Project and started the Greenhouse People's Environmental Center in the inner city of Johannesburg in Joubert Park. Worked in the buildings as what Kate is doing now, where we looked at container gardens in the basements, recycling initiatives as well. So I think it's really amazing how these macro industries that you described, Kate, are so connected, and they can, and I think the list can, because as you were presenting, I was thinking of what could be the next thing that could come in line with the mushrooms that would have been fed by the vermicast coming from the worm composting, and then the gardens. I could see, food processing and food preservation coming in, seed banks, all sorts of things that can be created in there. And I'm passionate about working with the people where they are, also centering whatever interventions within the people themselves, so that there is ownership from the beginning. So I really love that, and I love the element of learning, integrating the children, because they are always kind of left behind. And when I work with smallholder farmers, I always inform them, bring your kids with you, let them learn alongside you, because they also bring that freshness in terms of understanding innovation, understanding how technology works and how you can enhance what you're already doing. And I think also the last presentation with Erica, Food Growers Initiative, such an amazing, and I think it also links to Sisbusi presentation as well. I like the call to action. Don't wait. Start with what you have, where you are. Everybody is able to contribute using zero budget. Don't wait saying, I'm waiting for funding, I'm waiting for a counselor to come, or I'm raising funds, I'm waiting for to hear whether I'm getting the funding or not, because we essentially can be able to build from what we have and, you know, work together with others, because we can't do it by ourselves. You know, myself alone, I won't be able to go far, but if I connect with others, we may be able to reach you know, thousands and thousands of people and inspire more people, and people will take this, you're talking about Cape Town, but people will take it to the Eastern Cape, people will take it to other provinces where they originally come from the inner city, and be able to replicate what you are doing together there. I think it's, you know, all of these are just foundations for an alternative food system that many of us have been advocating for. I believe that COVID-19 has been the best teacher, that all of us, when it started, I remember I was sitting in my house, and when I was invited to come and join up as part of C19 Gauteng Food Coordination, at the time we were raising the funds for food relief. And one of the things that we were looking at is like food relief. But later on, as we started working with the smallholder farmers, I remember Team Abba saying to us, guys, you know, it's all well and good for us to, you know, to get money to put together these food boxes to be able to distribute in our local neighborhoods. But what will happen? We don't know how long this coronavirus is going to be with us. It is really essential that as we deliver these food boxes, we could also be delivering gardening starter packs, 10 kg of compost, 20 seedlings, some seeds, and go into these communities with these as well. And also identify what surpluses the people have in their backyards in these informal settlements, and already buy back some of that. I remember in the time when we started, people had excess maize in Gauteng, in Johannesburg Region G, in those informal settlements in the Vaal. They also had excess brinjals, and it was just magical for them to realize that they could be able to sell that, you know, that whole bulk, because they wouldn't be able to eat all of it as one family. They needed some other crops like spinach, like tomatoes and whatever, and selling that meant that they could have some money for them to be able to go and buy the other stuff that they do not have. And as we were working through that, then with the smallholder farmers and the community champions, identifying vulnerable households, then came the idea, because with the seeds that we gave, we found that people already started making seedlings. And because many of them were women who were domestic workers, and because of the lockdown, they couldn't now go to work and earn the money that they needed every week to buy the food. And they started making seedlings and started selling, you know, amongst each other in the neighborhood. And we realized that this is something that the farmers said, look, we can be able to buy the seedlings back from these people. And because we need them anyway, we need the seedlings for us to be able to start growing in our small pieces of land. And that was something that was really exciting when the people realized. I remember there was one lady who had made over 800 seedlings just in her little backyard. They don't have enough space, but to make seedlings, it doesn't require a lot of space. And immediately we started to buy the seedlings back, and that started to transform, the way that we were thinking about this food relief. And the people started saying to us, look, I used to earn, this one particular lady was a domestic worker working 2 days a week in Soweto. She would have to, so she was earning 150 Rand each day, and she would use 40 Rand for transport, 20 Rand going, 20 Rand coming back, and then she would be left 110. And that meant that that is the money that she would come back home with and be able to utilize that to buy the food for the children and also for the home and cover their other expenses in the house. And by the end of that, by the end of that whole exercise, she had made twice the amount of money that she would earn as a domestic worker. And she's one of the people who said to us, I'm no longer going back to work. So regardless of the fact that many of them anyway lost their jobs. And so she started making a lot, and because we were buying them in bulk, unlike where she was selling for 30 cents, 50 cents a seedling, we then decided that one of the things that we could do with people like her in the community, identify 10 in each of the 12 communities where we were working, was to be able to give them some basic entrepreneurial training. How can you, turn this seedling making into a small enterprise, and still, it will allow you to be able, if you want to go to work, you can, because the seedling don't want you to sit there and watch them the whole day. And then we started saying we could buy these seedlings at R1 from you. So if you've got 800 already, you know how much you're going to get. And she was just so motivated, and we started to see how she was able to inspire the people in the community. And initially the mentality that we had in the beginning was like, these people need food, we need to get in there, not even thinking about how are we going to sustain this, because the first lot of money obviously was donated. And I think we have seen as part of this, and I can tell you right now that intervention inspired so many people on Facebook, that the people we say in Johannesburg, northern suburbs, in the eastern suburb, western suburbs, started asking us, how can we be able to participate? Can we buy these boxes for ourselves and donate one? And we saw the importance of the gardening starter packs, and we started to amplify and said, every time you buy a box from these farmers that we would sell, because the intention with the project was not to sell the vegetable boxes, but there was a huge demand, which meant that, and I forgot to mention in the beginning, we were working with a group of 16 smallholder farmers who never worked together before. But because of this project, we needed bigger volumes for us to deliver more boxes of vegetables in these 12 communities. They started to work together. We appointed Team Aba to become our anchor farmer, and meaning all the other farmers will bring their produce into one farm. And that meant that we could talk to them about this initiative where they would be able to continuously be able to sell some seedlings, obviously starting from a base. But when we get we got a radio slot at Radio 702, our sales really, they kind of went tenfold. And we were able to deliver a lot. And we said, for every box that a customer buys, we will then donate a gardening starter pack that consisted of 20 seedlings, 10 kg of compost, and 2 packets of vegetable seeds and 2 packets of herb seeds. Then we really wanted to amplify on that, because when we went to communities, the day we were distributing the starter packs, we didn't just take one, we took a bucket load of compost with seedlings. And as we got into the heart of the community, people were running in the same attitude that they would run for the boxes. And people saw the value of this and realized that with this, I can be able to produce more. But as my neighbor has started selling the seedlings, I could also start selling my own seedlings, let alone the fresh produce, which they will have in excess. So for me, what I can say out of this is that it's so important, because before, Tim and them, they used to go to the markets and sell their produce, but because of lockdown, they couldn't. And because their little farms were associated right in the heart of the informal communities, people were flocking to them and asking, can you give me a cabbage? I'll see when I can pay you and whatever. And we started saying, just go to those people and start building a relationship with them. And what happened is that in doing that, we were unintentionally building a local food supply system, where now the smallholder farmers are now very well known in the community, and the community know now there's a very strong partnership, a give and take, where the farmers are donating the kind of bought boxes for food relief and distributing to these people, including the seedlings and the compost and the seeds. And the people are also starting to make something that they could sell back to the farmers, which is the seedlings. So, and one of the most critical thing, and I was sharing this on Monday in our national C19 food working group, is the importance of the community taking the initiative themselves. I think we can inspire as NGOs. We can say, this is what we would like you to do. Consider this. But we wouldn't have gone into the seedling business if the people themselves wouldn't have started this. And as a result, this doesn't need to be managed or driven by us. The people themselves are driving it because they saw a need and they started it, and they will be able to sustain it and take it further and train others and bring others. Because when we talk to them about what are the economies of scale, what is it if it's one of you, what about if it's 10 of you? What are we looking at? And you can use the numbers for you to sell bigger volumes, meaning getting bigger, a lot more money coming into you, and also be able to buy together. You're going to need the seeds and the compost to go forward for you to grow the seedlings. And when you come together, you are buying together, then you are able to reduce the costs as when you buy by yourself. And that has been really inspiring. And then they said, no, they would like communal spaces now. They want to work together in communal spaces. Now they've done it in their backyards. They feel confident. And in the past 4 weeks, we've been going out into the communities and working with them on communal spaces. And they're utilizing the produce from the communal spaces for various food kitchens in the community where last week we were in Lens, they are feeding the orphans. And they are also asking us, can you be able to buy back some of the produce? And said, of course, naturally, because we've got the Ubuntu box that we have to service. We are now offering a food delivery service in Johannesburg every week, and the numbers are growing. And we would like to be able to buy from you and partner. So it's a nice partnership. But what it means is that we are able to add other things like the tools library, where they could be able to share the tools instead of just buying the tools for each and every project. We could bring in the communal seed banks and start building this sustaining food production system that are very localized, and the people are able to share with one another. And when we were looking at the business training, we brought the people from different communities together, because we realized that there's also an opportunity for them to share knowledge and to be able to network with one another. And I'm sure I've taken a lot of time. Thank you.
No, Dora, thank you. Nadia was actually messaging me and saying, we can't stop her. This is too amazing. And I think that's everybody's sentiment. What a valuable and rich contribution. Thank you so much for sharing with us. A couple of things I just want to, I think that the chat is really rich and vibrant and enriching. Just some things that you said that really stood out for me was this idea of empowering communities themselves to take the initiative, empowering people within communities to take the initiative, because that concept of ownership is, I think, integral to the confidence that you were talking about toward the end of your presentation. So if it was just you going into the community and sort of doing everything, that I think would have been significantly different from what you all did do. I think just the way you also told the story of how everything came together was so inspiring, because it showed that you don't know what's going to happen once you start. And I think if we had this great picture of what could possibly happen, a lot more of us would just start. But thank you for painting that picture so that it does inspire us to start with what we have, start with where we are, and just take the plunge. I'm going to capitalize on this moment really quickly, if it's okay with everybody. I know, Dora, you said that you are leaving Gender CC very soon. I'm not sure when we'll have this opportunity to chat with you again. And I think just realizing that not by anything that we planned, but all of the speakers today were women. We are in August, and I think that there are strong links and correlations between gender and climate justice, the links between women and food systems, the links between women and biodiversity. So I think I'll take like 2 questions that we could just do for about 2 minutes. But Dora, if I can ask that at the end, if you could just come on for the last 2 minutes and just give a motivation to, I think there's a lot of women on this chat, but also just bearing in mind that it is Women's Month and that we'd like that also to feature here. If you just be able to give a motivation to women in this space and who are doing so much in contributing to the space. I don't know if there are any questions, so maybe you can wrap up for us, Dora. Let me just check. Does anybody have a question? You can just raise your hand. Then we can acknowledge you. If not, I'm going to ask the speakers to perhaps wrap up. I see Geronimo de Klerk has a question. Geronimo, we're going to unmute you. Please go for it.
I just wanted to say on behalf of the Yas River community, and the community is working on the garden now. I just want to empower the women, keep on with the good work, because actually here in Yas River, no women standing in solidarity for food gardens and self-sustainable processes and clean environments. So on behalf of the Yas River community in Cape Town and CTT growers, I just want to empower the women, stay in solidarity and have the power. You have the power when you're on fire. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Geronimo. Rolile, I am going to unmute you as well. Please go ahead. I think you should be unmuted, Rolile. Okay. I'm going to also unmute the movement in Africa. You are unmuted, Rachel. You guys can go for it.
Thank you very much. My message is to Dora, and I'm wondering, how did she manage to, or is she finding a way to enroll the youth who want to be in the city, and is she enrolling, does she have a program to enroll the youth back into the land, and are they getting that there's money in the soil?
That question was for Dora. Okay, I'm gonna ask, I'll save it for when Dora wraps up, if that's okay with you, Rachel. Just to say, I think there's a lot of new people in the meeting, and I was just typing it on the chat now. I think it would be extremely valuable for all of us if everybody could just maybe drop their names and your email addresses so that we can send the recording subsequent to this meeting, but also I think just for the networking that can go on in this group. So please drop your names and email addresses. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions before we wrap up? Kolile, I know you were trying to unmute. I'm not sure if you were able to, because I know you had a question. I'm just looking for your name. I've unmuted you again. Nope. Okay, I don't see any more hands. If we can do this, I know that both Kate and Erika had to leave. So just Busi and Dora are still with us. Busi, can I please ask that you just wrap up in 1 minute, and then we're going to give it to Dora just to wrap up at the end as well. Sorry, Busi, I think you're muted. Unmuting you now. Busi, I'm so sorry. I think you're still unmuted. Just give me 1 second. Let's just make sure you're unmuted before you speak. Okay. There we go.
Okay. No, I was saying that because you said I have to explain further what I meant about feeding the soil, or a healthy soil that makes a healthy plant. You'll find that with other systems of agriculture or farming, they feed the plant, whereas you have to be feeding the soil so that it is healthy and it will give you a healthy plant where you will find all the nutrients that are needed in the food for us to have a well-balanced food with minerals, vitamins, amino acids, and essential amino acids. This you do by feeding the soil, because what you put into the soil is what you get out, and that is what you will be getting out of your food. The saying that we are what we eat. And if you use your compost, you use your vermicast that we talked about here with worm farming, you use your old manures to feed your soil so that it is a healthy soil. And again, if with each one teach one, if we have a demonstration gardens where people have already been practicing what we're talking about, sustainable agriculture, building healthy soil so that we build healthy food, then we have to be having our gardens as demonstration sites so that we can give back and teach others so that they are able to emulate what we are doing. I think that's all. Thanks. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Busi. I would love to, I think you're going to get a lot of messages and emails from a lot of people after this, just who want to know more and to learn more. Thank you so much for your valuable contribution. I'm going to ask Dora to please wrap up for us as well. So Dora, I think if you can respond to Rachel's question about incorporating the youth, and then if you can wrap up for us, please.
Yes, no, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for all your comments. And yeah, so I think, you know, even though I'm leaving Gender CC, I will still be involved in this work. This is my passion. This is my life. So I'm going to be continuing. I'm particularly offering business training to the smallholder farmers and the people who come and train with us. And I'll continue to do this on the weekends and be involved and supportive of initiatives like this. We definitely are working with youth. It's been such an exciting thing for them, I think during the lockdown more than ever, to realize the importance of agriculture. I have been asked during the lockdown to show up in Protea Glen in Chawela to work with groups of young people. So I worked with one and he went and told others about what we are doing. And it was such a great pleasure. And the one time we had the training for 3 days at the back of a caravella, because that's the resource that they had under a tree. And for me, it's a breath of fresh air to work with the young people, because they bring innovation. So when you talk about this, they're already ahead saying, yeah, but maybe we could be able to do this. There's one that is in the Gauteng initiative, working with Alison, I think in Nadia, Winnie Basana, which I brought after our first initial training with her during the COVID-19. She's a powerful young woman. She felt inadequate, and obviously this is what women do when they're in the midst of a lot of young men. And she's so amazing. She's driving Alison and Nadia's seed propagation initiative. She's just one example of the possibility. And I think it's up to us to mentor them, because this is new for them. You know, for them, they really want the cool stuff. And if we mentor them and bring them in, and I always said to her, I'm volunteering you to work with the Gauteng Together group, and I know that you will do well. You know, I know you probably are scared, but that's how I feel every time when I come into this situation and these spaces. And they are doing extremely well. When we do the financial projections for what they could be able to produce on 1 hectare farm, you see their eyes light up, because for them, they don't want to work hard and get nothing at the end of it. They want to see how they can be able to make money. And I remember when I was in Chawela 2 weeks ago, and I had 15 of these young people, and they were saying to me, they never ever thought that farming can be able to, for them to earn like 20,000 Rand, the possibility. So we kept on taking it. If you've got 1 hectare farm, this is how much you could earn. This is when you've got 2 hectare farms and so the potential is really there. It's up to us, the older ones, to mentor them and to take them with us. And also allow them to teach us some of the things that they are so knowledgeable about, which is technology, how we can sell on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We've got a young South African that lives in Sweden, works as a marketing specialist in IKEA, who volunteered for our Ubuntu project. We since have got an online shop with something that we never dreamt of, because I didn't know how to do that. And we also have doubled our followers on Instagram. She does that, and she sells also on Facebook. And she just saw this on Facebook, and she said, I want to buy the boxes for my family, but above all, I want to give back to my own country. And another young person someone who lives in Shanghai, a friend, donated the boxes, continues to support, and they are so inspired by our initiatives. Share on your platforms. Share what you're doing. Don't be shy to share, to inspire others. But you are not only inspiring the people in your own community, you are inspiring the other people around the world, which is what I realized, the power of sharing and the Ubuntu spirit that lives in our people. So those are true South Africans, young people who want to make this country and be part of rebuilding this nation past COVID, because we cannot go back to normal. Normal was not great for all of us. I'm sure all of you agree. So in Women's Month, the women, we have the power in the inside of us. It is not in some of us, it is in all of us. And we must just go on and do it. With our feet trembling, our heart beating fast, sweating, we have to do it, because the future lies in our hands, and it's our responsibility to teach our children, to teach our communities, take them along with us, work together, share. I'm willing to share all of myself as I leave this sector that I've known for the past 25 years, stepping now to take responsibility at the national government level, to take this work in all 278 municipalities in this country. It has been a great honor, because I have climbed on the shoulders of many amazing women that I cannot stop counting. Vanessa Black and all of the Melinda Swift, all of the NSU group, many women that have shared themselves. I'm not an environmentalist by training. I was inspired to come into this by Earthlife Africa and the work that they were doing when I was a young student from Limpopo with no family. I took that as a hobby, environmentalism, and went with them to Toy Toy and to visit Tlulejo, eco-villages and other things. We can be able to do it. We must just take others with us. Each one must teach one. Thank you.
Amen. That's what I feel like I should say at the end of that. Thank you so much, Dora. Thank you, everybody. I must tell you, I don't like waking up early. I was a bit annoyed when I had to wake up early today, but I feel completely inspired. So, I like you say, you weren't an environmentalist in training. I would really like to get involved in this sphere a lot more now, just hearing all of you. So thank you so much for your contributions. I don't want to add anything because I don't want to take away from what Dora ended on. So just thank you so much, everybody. Have a lovely week. We'll keep in touch with you with the recordings and with emails. And yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy your day, and thank you again. Bye-bye.